Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today, we're going to talk about the Taurus full moon, Saturn stationing direct, and a little bit of Pluto in Aquarius. Lots of big energy is culminating in the sky this week. So, I want to offer you some insights, a bit of a roadmap to navigate the energy because it's tricky and you'll be tricked into misbehaving. Be tricked into misbehaving. That is the key this week is when you're ready to react, when you're ready to get volatile, when you're ready to jump the gun on something, see if you can just refrain for a little bit because it will reformulate and you can come back into your center. We have a Taurus full moon on the 15th of November, and it is in 24 degrees of Taurus. So the moon is in Taurus and the sun is in Scorpio. Usually, Taurus full moons are about nurture and comfort and the sensual pleasures of life because Taurus is about the material world. It governs finances, our sense of self-worth, our values, our senses, so our taste, our touch, our smell. It's about sensuality. And normally this full moon is one of those comfort full moons, not unlike a Cancer newer full moon, but the energy that is culminating, it's anything but comforting and nurturing. So I would encourage you around the 15th, so leading up the 14th, 15th, 16th, to actually prioritize some things that create nurture and comfort for yourself. Carve out some quiet time or cook a good meal, enjoy quality time with a friend, go on a walk in nature, see if you can actually carve that time out so you have some stillness and quiet within yourself, or just some time to get some energy out that doesn't feel like you're applying extra pressure, because there is a lot of pressure around this moon. And on the same day, on the 15th, Saturn is stationing direct. Saturn has been retrograde since June 29th of this year. So June 29th, 2024, Saturn stationed retrograde in Pisces. And it is stationing direct. So it has been retrograde all these months. It is stationing direct at 12 degrees Pisces in the morning at 9:21 a.m. on the 15th. And the full moon is at 4:28 p.m. Both of those are in Eastern time, so do your calculations. But in the morning, Saturn's stationing direct, and in the evening, we have the full moon becoming exact in Taurus. So two big things. And there's some other astrological aspects in the sky that are creating more tension. Full moons already create tension because of the opposition with the sun and the moon. But this tension and this polarity is being exacerbated in the sky in a multitude of ways. I want to talk about Saturn first, because this will set the stage and give you some journal prompts, give you some opportunity for reflection. And it certainly has for me. I've been doing a lot of deep dive the last couple of weeks around my work in Saturn, because Saturn has been working us. And when Saturn being an outer planet, when the outer planets retrograde, it's different than the inner planets. The inner planets being Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And we've got Mars about to retrograde in December. We will talk about that later. That's a whole other can of worms. We also have Mercury about to retrograde at the end of November. So that's coming too. Let's stick with first things first. Let's move through this week, because I think that there will be revelations on a multitude of levels, like on the world stage and also in our personal lives. And guess what? These revelations may be startling. This is the kind of energy where we may have to face or see what we have been denying or pushing back or pushing down or not wanting to believe. So Saturn is about personal responsibility. More than anything, it's about personal responsibility and maturity. It is about getting things accomplished practically, but it's about taking responsibility for ourselves. So it's not fun, right? It's like about adulting, essentially. Saturn asks us to adult, to get the things done we don't want to do, like pay the bills. I mean, we can pay the bills, but sometimes it's like, oh gosh, I need to get these emails responded to, or man, I've got to do the laundry. Saturn gives us the energy to do life, to do the adulting. And it's an important energy because it's part of our human experience. But Saturn's been retrograde for these past handful of months. And when it retrogrades, energy turns inward. So it becomes more introspective and it's less extroverted in the sense that it can feel like things are not accomplished. Like we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes or internally, and it doesn't feel like there's a tremendous amount of external traction or evidence or outcomes happening. So if you feel like you've been working hard, whether it is in your spiritual life, which is what this Saturn retrograde is about, and I'll dig down into the details. You've been working hard spiritually and enriching your spiritual life, but you're just not seeing the evidence yet, the outcomes, the signs, things aren't happening fast enough. You're probably right where you're supposed to be, because I feel that way. I get it. I'm like, I've been digging deep and doing the work, but where's the evidence? Come on now. I want it now. If you've been working and you've got a work project, or you've been frustrated at work and you've been really pulling yourself up by the bootstraps and trying to figure things out and reorient yourself, but it doesn't feel like new doors are opening yet or breakthrough is happening. That could be an example. It could be the same if you've been in a relationship challenge, an unhealthy relationship, and you've been trying to reorient yourself or do some healing in that area, but you're not seeing progress. That could be other evidence of Saturn. Of course, it depends on where Saturn is in your chart. So if you can find where Saturn at 12 degrees of Pisces is in your chart and look over, I can't remember exactly where it retrograded. I feel like it started at 17 or 18 degrees and backed up to 12. And I may be wrong on that, but we'll put the correct degrees in the show notes. But if you look and find what house it falls in your chart, that can help you really delineate a little bit more where Saturn has been working you out. And certainly, if you're in your Saturn return, I know a handful of people right now in their Saturn return and they're freaking exhausted. They're like, gosh, it's hard. I'm doing the work. I'm listening. I'm paying attention, but I'm not seeing the results or the external evidence that I'm on the right path. And it's not that they're not seeing it, it's just not creating that propulsion forward. So the beauty of Saturn stationing direct, I mean, I'm thrilled about this, is we will start to feel like we're moving forward in the work that we've been doing in our lives and internally, where we've been maturing. So ask yourself, where have I been growing up? Where have I been having some difficult lessons and been maturing and maturing my perspective and my attitude and my actions? Where have I been taking personal responsibility? And the flip side of that, because Saturn is in Pisces, is where have I escaped my responsibilities? And where am I floundering? Where have I been just denying or escaping or really being stagnant and not stepping up and heeding the call or being responsible for myself? That is also the flip side of it. Where have you maybe neglected your personal responsibilities, and now it feels like you're in turmoil or chaos? And this is not about pointing any fingers or saying you're doing it wrong, because there's nothing wrong in our paths. It's all about growth. One of my favorite sayings is, sometimes when we feel like we're taking one step forward and two steps back, at least we're still moving. That's what this Saturn retrograde has felt like to me. Is I feel like I'm moving in a direction. I know it. The hope is there. The bigger vision is there. The aims are there. And I'm moving in that direction. But then I feel like I backslide, or things aren't happening fast enough, or some things dissolve and fall apart. The opportunity is to not be discouraged, to recognize whether you're moving forwards or backwards, you're still moving. So inertia is the antithesis of this, meaning escapism, denying, doing nothing, and expecting everything is just going to be perfect or turn out the way you want it to. Saturn is about stepping up and owning your side of the street in Pisces. So if Saturn is about practicality, essentially, because it's about responsibility, taking action step by step, one thing at a time. That is, it's material. It's like earth energy, right? In Pisces, Pisces is watery and spiritual. It's about our unconscious. It's about the collective. It's very psychic. It can create psychosis and delusion and lots of disappointment and frustration. It can create depression. I mean, Saturn retrograde in Pisces, depression and insanity and crazy making kind of stuff, feeling like I've talked about the dark night of the soul, or if you're in a season where you feel just heavy and depressed, whatever's going on in the world, however that is impacting you, and really feeling the collective in your soul, in your body. Saturn has been unearthing that stuff in us. I mean, it is bringing up stuff in the unconscious that we have been unable to see or not ready to see. And sometimes those are hard truths or fears to confront. And that's why I've been setting us up the last few weeks of doing a fear inventory. I know I mentioned that last month. And with Saturn stationing direct, anytime we have a planet that stations retrograde or stations direct, I always call that a punctuation point, because the energy is personified. And Saturn slowing down, the outer planets move slower in their orbits than the inner planets. So as Saturn stations, it's stationing as we speak. It is stationing right now, and it's not going to just turn direct and boom, the momentum is happening. It takes a while in its orbit to get on track and start to build up speed. So you will feel Saturn's station the rest of November. You're going to feel it. We get a punctuation with Saturn standing still in Pisces the rest of November. And the call to action for Saturn in Pisces, the theme is, am I taking responsibility for my spiritual life? How am I taking responsibility for myself and my soul and my inner life? And how can I do that constructively? What can I do? And I always say, what can you control? Your attitudes, actions, and beliefs. So Saturn has been shifting some of our perspectives in a multitude of ways. And when we talk about Saturn in Pisces and our spiritual life, however that shows up for you, of course, you're listening to this podcast, so you're interested in expanding your wisdom and knowledge around all things spiritual and metaphysical, and incorporating new tools, astrology, numerology, oracle cards, your guides, your higher self, and your consciousness. You're interested in these things. But what it does, the enrichment of your spiritual life, how are you taking responsibility for that? And the mainstays of that energy really fall in step with the numerology of 2024, the energy of the 8. One of the things that I have repeated over and over, that it has been like a light bulb for me with the 8 energy this year, is the element of resiliency and resolve. And I know you're probably like, oh yeah, you've said that before, Amanda. Resiliency and resolve. And those are the 2 tickets. And I feel like with Saturn retrograde, it's done a number on my resiliency and resolve. I haven't liked it, but it's like, okay, get back up, dust yourself off, and step forward. You are here. You're here to evolve and grow, and your truth is evolving. Your light is evolving. Sure, you're exhausted today, or you don't feel well, or you're agitated about something, but let's resiliently process that so I can do something productive to move forward. Or what can I do to expand and shift my perspective? And there's so many ways in which we can do that, but I'm asking you all to think about, where is your resolve? And is your resolve in the value of your soul, the value of your uniqueness, your talents, your mission, your purpose, that you are divine, that you are opening up to divine energies? And that is challenging. It is not easy because our bodies are so dense, and there is this incredible mutation happening right now in the human genome, in our consciousness, in our brains, in our biology, in our cells and DNA. So it's like all this gunk is being cleaned out. So disease is coming up. Where are you experiencing any kind of dis-ease, whether it's literal pain or an ailment or a sickness that you're struggling with, or it is emotional? It's emotional disease, or it is in your thinking, your stinking thinking, because our minds can trick us. And with Saturn and Pisces is it's tricky. It tricks us into this kind of idealizing things and how the world could and should be, and then we get resentments because expectations are not met. So as Saturn stations direct, definitely take note in the days in and around this station direct, because Saturn is standing still in the sky. It's strength and fortitude and resolve and dedication and maturity. It's like beaming out to us, and it's beaming out in the sign of Pisces, like ripples in an ocean, like frequency coming out saying, what are you responsible for? How are you taking responsibility for yourself? And probably the simplest suggestion that I can offer is in your attitude. Yes, these things may be challenging in your life, and this is where you're struggling, or you're afraid, or you feel beaten down, exhausted, like solutions aren't coming. But where can you step into gratitude and appreciation? Where can you find your hope? And this is a time where if you can find hope, find curiosity, anything that tricks you. I'm all about a trick, right? Like willingness is one of those tricks for me. It's like, if I can be willing, am I willing to take somebody's suggestion? Am I willing to ask for help? Am I willing to put something into practice consistently? And by the way, just like the energy of the 8 with this resiliency and resolve, it takes consistency. The consistency in dedicating yourself to something that creates health and wellness, because that falls in Pisces. Dedicating yourself to something consistently to create greater health and wellness turns into this momentum and fortitude, and then a resolve, and then it shifts an attitude or a lifestyle or a habit. But it takes this decision to dedicate yourself to something consistently that will add value, add health and healing. And that speaks to the full moon, because Taurus is about values. The full moon in Taurus is, yes, about the material world, but because it's opposite Scorpio, which is about the immaterial, and it's like the alchemy of things, the immaterial is about this transformative process. So remember, with the energy of the 8 in 2024, everything is an inside job first. If you believe that you are valuable and worthy and abundant, and you really believe it and know it, and then demonstrate that through your actions, the money comes, the abundance comes, the resources come. It may not come in the time you want, or the way you want it. But the manifestation quality of the energy of the 8 is an inside job first, and then externally, your circumstances reflect what's going on internally. This is very much what this full moon looks and feels like. It is one of those opportunities where we may have some mirrors put up, secrets may be revealed, betrayal, victimization, harsh truths. This is not a cute full moon. It's not cute. It's erratic, and it's where some harsh truths can be revealed and come to light. So that could be on the world stage, in politics, in our communities, in our infrastructures, leaders, whatever it may be. So it could be on the bigger stage. But if anything shows up in your life that feels really harsh, like somebody betrays you, or somebody is angry and unkind, or shuts you out, or you get in an argument, or something falls apart that you've been working on, or there's a layoff. I'm not saying you're going to get laid off, but if anything drastic happens, it's not happening to take you down and take you out. It's happening to clear some things out and snap you into the present moment. And that's what I love about this full moon. I mean, if there's anything I love, let's be honest here, because it's intense. But I'm always like, bring on the intensity. It doesn't scare me. I can have my fears, but I usually am like, okay, rip the Band-Aid off, reveal to me what has been hiding beneath the surface. And this is the kind of full moon that can feel drastic, but secrets and betrayal are like the theme of this full moon. And I'm laughing because it's like, ew, ew. And guess what? Where can you be responsible? Back to Saturn and Pisces and enriching your spiritual life and your soul and your light. If you've been secretive, if you've been dishonest, if you've been vindictive or malicious, because we're not perfect, we all harbor things. So resentments, if you've been harboring a resentment, that's limiting your light. That's blocking your infinite potential. So if there's any place in your life where you feel like you've been a little shady, then this is the time to confront it. And guess what? Get out ahead in front of it. Instead of, you know how we've all been in circumstances where we've not been doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're mischievous, right? I mean, we're human. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to be messy, or we're going to be in a season of behaviors that are not really that appealing to other people or to ourselves, and honoring our soul. So we're out of integrity, out of character. But if you are harboring resentments, or you're really frustrated around something, instead of something exploding on you, where can you just be emboldened and say, you know what? I've been really unkind the last few months to you, or I have shut you out because I've been angry. I don't know how to deal with this. Or just own your side of the street, but get out in front of the story. Get out in front of the story, or the story will catch up to you. That's the theme of this moon. Get out in front of the story, or the story's going to catch up to you. It's like summon your boldness, summon your bravery, get vulnerable, get honest, and get honest about your mess. I mean, y'all heard me talk about my dark night of the soul. I'm not afraid most of the time to get in front of my mess and say, I've been messy. I have been wrong. And I don't always know where I've been messy or wrong. Sometimes somebody has to say, Amanda, you really hurt my feelings. Or when you said that, it rubbed me the wrong way. Today, I don't get as defensive. I'm like, gosh, thank you for telling me that. Tell me more. Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. I can edit my words, or I will change my behavior, or let me do some reflection on that. Wow, that doesn't feel good, but I appreciate you being honest with me. And that's one of like my values that I know is I really appreciate bold honesty with people. So if they are uncomfortable or struggling in an area, instead of just sitting on it and not communicating, doing those ghosting things, that drives me up the wall. I'm like, I'd rather you just say, hey, I'm struggling here. This is why I haven't communicated with you. And so if those are things that I value, then I have to look at where I'm not being emboldened in telling somebody that something is going on. So this is the kind of moon, full moon, and tension where with Saturn and this moon, and also Pluto is at the very, very, very last degrees, like the very last minutes of Capricorn. It moves into Aquarius on November 19th at 3:39 p.m. Eastern time. So Pluto is finishing this long journey pretty much since 2008 in Capricorn and about to move into Aquarius for the next 20-ish years. We are moving into a new cycle of energy that is going to create a tremendous amount of change in the years ahead, from a consciousness level to our systems and our infrastructures and leadership and businesses. I mean, it's about to really rework humanity. So we're gearing up for really intense change. And where do you have control over that? In where you can heal, grow, and change yourself. What can you change? And we go back to attitudes, actions, and beliefs. And if you're having a hard time clarifying where you're struggling, ask for help. And the first place you can ask for help is from your soul and your guides. You can say, hey, show me. And maybe you sit still and you pull some oracle cards. The oracle cards never lie. I tell you what, the last couple of weeks, I have pulled so many oracle cards, and I don't always pull. I mean, I love my oracle cards. I use them some, but I don't use them a lot. I'm pretty good with my own intuition and knowing, but I've had multiple moments in the past couple of weeks where I'm like, I got to pull a card. And I get really still and quiet, and it never ceases to amaze me. I pull a card and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the answer, or this is revealed. And I don't always like what I read because I'm like, oh, that's what it is, you know? So just recognize, like, maybe pulling some oracle cards around this full moon, getting quiet, lighting a candle, burning some sage, sit outside. It's a real earthy moon. Get outside. One of my favorite practices, and I have done this forever, is when I journal on new and full moons. I do all my journaling, I write out my intentions, and then I put my journal open faced out in the moonlight with crystals around it and all sorts of amulets or whatever seems poignant to me. I just utilize my intuition, but I put it out under the full moonlight, or the dark moon of a new moon, and I let it charge. This is a great moon to write out your intentions and your healing. What do you want to heal? Look at the darkest parts of you, the parts you fear most, the parts you're ashamed of, you're guilty about, any of those heavy feelings. Pull them out and say, I want to heal this. This is something about my behavior that really is uncomfortable, and I don't want to be this person or behave this way. I want to heal this. Write it all out and put it under the full moonlight for a couple of nights, and put your crystals out and all the things, because there's something magical to that. And the moon can do amazing things. The other thing you can do is you can charge your water under the moon. You know how I did the water meditation with the crystals? And if you don't remember that, we'll link it in the show notes, because it's a great practice for this full moon, because we've got the sun in a water sign and the moon in an earth sign, to charge your water and use that as something to detoxify, to clarify, to amplify your psychic abilities. It's a very psychic moon, by the way. And because Saturn is standing still in Pisces, the psychic energy is heightened. And I'm going to speak to that in a minute, because it's something that came through so clearly to me about a week ago, and I have been paying attention to it. But take a jar of water, fill it up. You can put a crystal in it if you like. Fill it up and then put it out under the full moonlight for 2 or 3 nights. Charge up that water. And when you feel like it's charged up, let the moonlight, it's moon water, charge up the moon water. And when you feel like it's charged up, you sit down and you drink that water and you say, "Thank you, water, for clarifying my energy, healing the darkness, healing the heaviness. Thank you that I am organically shifting into a higher frequency. Thank you for detoxing me. Thank you for," and you fill in your blank. But charge up some moon water. Have fun with that. And I think the more of us do that, the more amazing it is. It just personifies that energy and ritual. I will definitely be putting moon water out in my journal and my crystals, because this is just one of those moons where I'm like going to be doing all the things because I'm here. I'm like, bring on anything dark, because I'm here for the light. The resolve of the eight is within us. So do something demonstrative of your spiritual practice and taking responsibility for your own healing, health, and well being. And the more of us that do that, the more light we are not only sending out into the world, we're also interconnected with each other. So even think about that. And I will do it as I say it. I will smile when I'm thinking, I hope a few other people are doing this that listen to the podcast, putting their moon water out. And I'll probably snicker and laugh about it because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're such dorks. But I'm not. I'm like, I believe in this stuff. I don't think it's dorky. I think it's true. And it'll give me a laugh of, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And oh my gosh, there's probably somebody else 3,000 miles away doing it, because we've got listeners all over. So if we all do this together on the night of the 15th and leave our moon water out a couple of nights, and let's say we drink it on Monday, let's just make a pact to do that. And if you don't do it, so what? You get our energy too. But let's just all do something fun together, because we're not alone. And when we all interconnect like these little dots on a map, and our energy is interconnected with a little bit of alchemy, a little bit of magic, and working with the moon, we are harnessing our own empowerment and our light. So have fun with it. I'm going to do it. I hope you will too. Let me know if you do. Shoot me a direct message or an email or whatever, and let me know. It'll bring a smile to my heart, and I'll know that we are connected. So, what I was going to follow up with around psychic sensitivity, and this is really important. About a week ago, I was meditating and doing something, and really just in my own contemplation, the very clear message I got was, do not dull your psychic sensitivity. We are all energetically sensitive. And right now, it's almost like a layer of skin has been peeled off. Like we're just feeling things deeper, and they feel heavier and deeper and more confusing at times. I feel it. I can feel the depth of it, and I'm not hopeless or losing hope. I mean, my heart is in it. I'm here for it, putting one foot in front of the other. But at times I can just feel my feelings, and it's raw and sensitive, and it's psychic energy, it's emotional energy, it's mental energy. It just feels very raw and almost like crawl out of your own skin energy. And the message I got with that was, do not distract yourself from this. Do not dull yourself. Where I would normally say, oh, get grounded, go get grounded, go breathe, hit the reset button. Can you go do the laundry? Where normally that is my go to, I've gotten to where I just say, okay, I'm feeling super sensitive right now, or raw, or exposed, or vulnerable, or off my rocker. And instead of just breathing and grounding, I just let it ride. I just feel it. And when I feel it, without even trying to process it or alchemize it or discern it, where is this coming from? What is the root of this? Or even replacing it with something that is healthy, like breathing or taking a beat or sitting still. I'm actually just like, bring it on, bring the energy on, and let me feel all of this sensitivity. Do not dull your senses. That's what I've been telling myself. It moves through pretty fast. Like the energy, it's almost like lightning. when I'm feeling all this frenetic energy or it's heavy, however it's showing up for you, just say, I'm here for it. I am here for it. And almost like roll your shoulders back, lift your chin up, and just, it's like kind of shining your heart light out. So instead of even standing still and closing your eyes and grounding and breathing, I mean, all of those things are good. So I don't want you to lose your mind. I breathe and I practice certain things. But instead of shutting down the sensitivity, I'm like, I'm opening it up. I'm exposing the sensitivity and connecting my sensitive psychic energy with whatever is coming through. Now, that being said, all the while, I am very mindful of my aura and my energetic boundaries when I do that. So when I do it, it's not like I'm just beaming my crazy or my sensitivity or my rawness out into the universe and I'm susceptible to hitchhikers. Because that's one of the things I say is like when we have our aura so far out that we catch all sorts of debris and energy up in our field, and it can create less clarity and our intuition is foggy. So when you do that, maybe you imagine that your aura is in tight, it's fortified, and you can fortify it with whatever color feels good to you: emerald green, diamond white light, blue, whatever feels like your color at the moment. Bring your aura in, but it's like outstretch your arms, open your heart up, and say, here is all of me. I'm bearing my soul. I'm bearing all of this sensitivity. Bring it on. And hopefully, the way that I am communicating that is demonstrating to you wherever you feel raw and sensitive and like you're just feeling too much. I mean, downloads of psychic information have been coming through, and it's overwhelming as all get out. It's like a computer chip is in me and just downloads of information. So it's overwhelming. And that's where I feel like intelligence is flooding through, and I am not at a point where I know how to make sense of it or articulate it. I just can feel these downloads of information and memory and the future coming through. And instead of just breathing and grounding, I'm like opening up to it. I'm saying, okay, aura in, aura in, aura in, open up to this. I don't have to synthesize it all right now. I don't have to understand it right now. I am upgrading. I am here for the upgrade. And it usually passes in sometimes a matter of seconds, sometimes minutes, or it may create some lethargy or some kind of emotional response. And then after that, I drink water or I ground or I breathe or I do something healthy to get centered in my body. So see if you can open yourself up in a healthy way to whatever psychic sensitivities you are experiencing. This energy is a wonderful energy to definitely create clarity for yourself, especially in the dark parts and in the darkness, because the traction will start to happen in the months ahead. We've talked about the acceleration of energy, but it feels like things are just going to start happening at an excessively rapid pace. So use this full moon to center yourself and to get clear on your personal responsibility, where you are maturing and how you can own that so your light can really filter through and all of the heaviness, all of the darkness can sift through. So definitely take time in and around this full moon energy with Saturn stationing and then Pluto moving into Aquarius. And I'll talk more about Pluto in Aquarius in the weeks ahead and in the months ahead about things to look for and energies and what's on the stage for the next 20 years. But it really is about a futuristic mindset. It's about a rebellious, revolutionary energy. It's doing things radically different. It's about affecting change that is about our future, the future of humanity and these future humans that we are becoming. We are evolving. We are becoming this different, more evolved, more enlightened and awakened human. And what used to work is probably not going to be as effective. So that's why our intuition, our extrasensory abilities, our telepathy, all of those things are going to start coming online. And this is what I'm going to close with. I had a conversation with my fellow podcaster and really good friend, Allie Fallon. If you don't know Allie, Allie has been on the podcast. She has her own podcast called Write Your Story, and it's fabulous. You should definitely check it out because she articulates things in such beautiful, grounded ways, and she's the best at journal prompts. But Allie and I were talking about our soul's evolution, our personal growth and development, and the direction we're going. And one of the things we were discussing was becoming telepathic. And I was sharing with her, I said, one of the things I truly believe in humanity within the next 20 years is we are becoming more telepathic. And if we are more telepathic, that means we become more transparent. If you can see through somebody, if you can hear what they're saying and they can hear you, don't you want to get your you know what together right now? Like, that's why I'm like, root out the dark stuff, the ugly thoughts, the things. And you're human. We're all going to be messy and have that stuff. But we're moving toward more heart-centered telepathic connection. And I have been seeing that a big motivation of my own healing journey is taking responsibility for where there is unresolved pain or resentment or discomfort in my life. Because if I'm on display and you can read right through me, then, I work to be transparent, but we're all human and we hide things and we're working on our own stuff. We were saying, gosh, if we were all transparent, the world would be a different place because we would know who really loved us, who didn't love us, who was secure, who was insecure, who was against us, who was for us. And I'm being very black and white in that dichotomy. But we were saying, gosh, if we were all telepathic and you could really read anybody's mind and their energy field, it might change the nature of the people you hang out with and who you spend time with. And I tell you what, one of my gifts is telepathy. I think I've told stories about this before where I've been in circumstances where I've heard the voice in people's head and it's been unkind and it's hurt my feelings. It's one of those unfortunate gifts that comes with being psychically sensitive and attuned. There are many times where I have heard someone take my inventory or be ugly, and it's not a judgment, it's just the truth. And I'm like, dang, I wish I couldn't hear what they were thinking. It's been painful. And it's not as painful to me anymore because I take things with a grain of salt, and I also set different boundaries today and attract different people into my life, or am more clear in that sort of thing. But just think about if you were transparent today and all the people in your life, your coworkers, your family, anybody around you could read your thoughts, would you be okay with that? That's your checkpoint for this full moon and Saturn stationing direct. I mean, that's a big checkpoint. But if we all do a little bit of work on this, just think if we all spend 20 minutes diving into the darkest things that we're afraid of or we don't want to show other people, like 20 minutes each, all of us doing that, whoa, that's kind of an exponential jump. So make the most of this full moon, be patient with yourself and others, and really summon your personal maturity and responsibility because it will pay out in the months ahead. Take care, everyone. Be well.